he is not just injecting pace and speed and rock and roll all the time. He is now throwing in some jazz and throwing in some classic and really blending out the way he wants to attack a player by player. That's the kind of complexity you're starting to see Carlos work into his game. And welcome to another edition of the Best of Three podcast. I'm Alvin. That's still Torrey. TH, we're just putting a bow on the round of 16 here at the Australian Open, so it's a good time for us to catch up. We haven't talked in a few days. How is your tennis viewing experience going right now?
You know what? It's going well, Alvin. The weather outside, as most of us here in the States, I'm sure many of our viewers and listeners are experiencing the same cold front that we are. So I haven't been outside the house except to walk the dogs about 2 or 3 times. It's been a great time to catch up on some football and on some tennis. I was a little torn last night between matches because I had to watch the rest of that crazy Seahawks-Rams game.
Yeah.
But it's been going well. I got a good chance to watch a lot of the tennis last night, pretty much all the matches that were left for today. I guess it's day 9, and was really like what I saw, Alvin. Really like what I saw as far as everything's concerned. So this should be I'm looking forward to this episode.
Yeah, this is I feel like when we look at, continually evaluate how we choose to talk about tennis and when we choose to talk about tennis. Grand Slams, for me personally, are a little tricky because, we are both avid fans and we're watching a lot of matches, and in this particular space, our podcast is one of depth, not necessarily breadth of commentary, if you will. So with a lot of matches, it makes it tough for us to really do what I think we do well, which is to, really, really break down some individual matches. But as we close the round of 16, go into the quarterfinals, I feel like this is a really good time for us to slow down a little bit, get into some of these matchups, and talk about, what we've been seeing as we get, I guess, officially into the business end of this event. And with that being said, let's start with the women, and we'll just go from top to bottom. We can start with the world number 1, Aryna Sabalenka. She she's playing against Eva Jovic in the quarterfinals, top half of the draw, and I feel like the match she played against Victoria Mboko, right up until that wiggle when she was trying to serve out the match, she was playing almost perfect tennis.
I agree with that.
She was not allowing Victoria to really get into points. Victoria does an extremely job of, running around defending, absorbing pace, bringing pace off of your big ball, especially when she's in the corners. But Aryna was doing a fantastic job of, one, serving lights out, extremely high percentage on the first serve, and then doing what a lot of the other women don't do, is coming forward, using those spins when she's coming forward, being very aggressive off the first ball. What did you see in that match? And then kind of walk me through what we're thinking about with Ms. Jovic.
Number 1, and I saw this with several matches, and day 8 as well, for that matter. You better start sharp, Alvin. You better start sharp. And I don't think Vicky planned on not starting as well. Clearly, she's made it this far and has won some tour level events. Very, very good player. You just can't afford to stub your toe early in a tournament like this, especially against a player like this. Had she started I saw something very similar against Yannick Sinner and Darderi. I know we're going to get to him, but it was very. If they played that level of tennis, Cilic against Ruud, there's so many players that could have started so much better, and the match was very competitive in the third, obviously second for the women. It just didn't start that way, and that was the biggest thing that I saw from Vicky and Mboko. I was a little bit, forget which round it was. I'm trying to remember who Vicky played second or third round. I may have to look it up. She had a bit of a. I want to say it was the first seed she ran into. It was second round. I'm looking at the match, but I can't place the player. Vicky has a tendency to force herself to go for bigger shots at a certain time. I think her backhand's actually very, very solid. And I think her forehand, as clean as it is, the forehand still has a little bit of a I'm not gonna call it a technical thing. It's, at this point, it's just what she does. She's done way too well with this for me to call it a flaw. It's not like a Coco's forehand or serve. It's just not as aesthetically clean as I would like. And that's the
Well, what does that
that
what does that
that
what does that mean? What does that mean? Because I think I know what you mean when you say not as aesthetically clean and what the downfalls of that are. Um, I want you to explain that.
I will expound on it with the most humility because she's doing great with it as it is. Let's put that out there. I feel like on her forehand, she doesn't quite get the extension and quite get the full arm and racket all the way through the shot. I feel like she pulls it a little bit. I feel like right at impact, he brings it to the inside a little bit, and the ball has a little bit of side spin. She catches it extremely clean, but it's not necessarily the cleanest of shots. That being said, I feel like when she forces herself to go for shots that require you to, as we all say in the tennis jargon, snap off a forehand with that hard cross court topspin angle or with just a big clean inside in,
Inside
I
in,
feel
yeah.
like that's not a ball that she possesses as well. Her inside out, ironically, hits better because it's going that direction
Hit it late,
anyway.
hit it great.
Right? So, with that said, and I want to be very clear that she has great timing. So she makes up for any, I'm gonna say insufficiency. But I also say that to say, anytime the matchup goes forehand to forehand big, while I worry about her being late on the forehand to catch line, I'm not worried about her going through somebody with her forehand side per se, unless she's given the right kind of ball. So I wasn't as worried about this matchup with Aryna. If anything, I was kind of happy Aryna actually got some another tiebreak in under her belt. The Potapova match was the only other match that I thought that she really got pushed in. And besides that, she's pretty much playing the tournament like the number one seed should, which is pretty much being unscathed. And I don't think she's dropped a set yet, Alvin. So she's,
She,
she's playing pretty clean ball right now, as you would expect from Aryna Sabalenka.
yeah, she hasn't dropped a set. I mean, the Potapova match, I feel like you saw I mean, Anastasia played fantastic in that match.
Yeah, she did.
And you saw the reflection of that match in the first set of Sabalenka versus Mboko. Like I was,
Yep,
texting with some friends, and I'm like, Aryna looks so sharp because she came out of that match sharpened.
100%.
You play two back-to-back
100%.
tiebreak sets against another, top 40 player. You're going to be ready to roll, and she looked ready to roll. I mean, she was like I said, almost perfect until that little wiggle. I think she was serving it 5-3 in the,
Yep,
or maybe something like that, 5-3 in the second set to close it out. But
yep.
I mean, this is typical Sabalenka, right? She
Yeah,
gets better as the tournament goes on.
she does.
We know what to expect. We expect her here in the in the
Yep,
quarterfinals, and that's where she is. I think the story about is more so. I mean, the surprising part is her
right,
opponent, Eva
right,
Jovic, which I guess if
right.
you go back to our draw preview, it's not all that surprising. We had our eyes on her, much like a lot of people did. She is she's right. It feels like she's arriving early, but actually it feels like she's right on time.
Right on time.
She's
Agreed.
right on time. The match that she kind of popped through. She's had some. Oh, this is the way to put it. I mean, I think actually I'm gonna let you speak on it because we were talking about this before we got started, and
Yep.
how the matchups she's had have been almost perfect for her
Oof.
to open up her toolbox a little bit. So I'm gonna let
Yep.
you roll speak on that.
Anytime you have, and I've spoken at length about the rock, paper, scissors of things. The rock, the paper, the scissors, doesn't matter which one you want to call which. It's just you're one, right? And your opponent typically is the other one of the other two. And in the analogy, right, paper tends to smother rock and rock crushes scissors. So she has if she is rock, she has always in this tournament so far has had scissors a lot of these matches up until the point in time. I don't think she has faced a better paper yet, and she hasn't faced a bigger rock. She will face a bigger rock here pretty soon in Aryna Sabalenka. So, but I say that to say, and as I was saying, she can only play who's in front of her, so that's not her fault. But as she
Absolutely.
goes through this whole process, we just haven't, and it's weird to say, she's played 4 matches and hasn't been quote unquote tested, but she hasn't been tested with different styles. Her top seed was Jasmine Paolini, who no slight on Jasmine. Jasmine may be one of the underpowered, of the top 8 seeds. Everyone else she's played, I think she played a qualifier first round, and she played some again as she should as a seeded player. Nothing about that. We're talking about the types of matches and the types of matchups that she's had. Her serve, Alvin, her forehand and backhand, very clean. I was impressed with anything how routine she's made this all look on. I got to think this is her first real slam and certainly her first Australian to go this deep in her first quarterfinal. So she's handled all this not only with grace and with very good composure. She has handled it with her shot selection has been sharp. She looks calm, Alvin. She looks like she deserves, like she expects to be there. Even in some of those strong rounds against Putintseva, she did not look like she was the underdog at all. If anything, Putintseva kept looking over like, is this for real? And, at this point, he was like, this is for real. I do this
Yeah.
all the time. And I was
Yep.
very happy to see that. The only question, and I put in as you were asking me about some of my thoughts, as far as what I have seen, right? What I have seen, I like a lot. And when I see her playing hard balls down the middle, resetting with that, that drill we used to do with the middle third and the outer third, right? You had to
Yep.
kind of go
Yep.
hard middle, and then before you could take a ball back wide. One of my favorite drills, especially for high tempo and for matchup situations. Her middle third to outer third combination is so good. She knows if she's catching the ball late to go line. She knows how to go big. Almost always, at least up to this point in time, takes that open stance backhand hard middle first, so she doesn't get herself rammed, which I like. She knew to go line. She went back cross several times when she had the chance. Her feet are just almost always in the right position.
Fantastic footwork.
So good of her footwork and not slapping, which I feel like at some point, I feel like not a slight on Vicky. Vicky's, I feel, a much faster player in terms of just all out court speed and coverage. But she gets there so fast that she's early sometimes, she's late sometimes, and she's kind of adjusting on the fly. I feel like Eva's much more surgical, much more specific with her targets and what she wants to do with the ball. So therefore, she controls the court a lot to a higher degree. So that's what I have seen. And what I have seen, I like a lot. What I haven't seen, as I said, how will she do against a better version of herself? How will she do when she has to now return that serve of Aryna Sabalenka, which most players struggle with? That's why she's number one in the world. But how will she, over the course, let's face it, she may come into she may have a bit of a buzzsaw. Hope she doesn't, but that's what we're expecting. How will she handle it the next time she plays her? How will she handle it the fourth time? Where will she be a year from now? As far as I'm concerned, this has been a phenomenal breakout tournament for her. I feel like in the sequence of a player moving forward, she's done everything you've asked her to do. Right? She's more than beat her seed. She's had a great run. No different than Ben Shelton, right? One of his first Australians out about 3-4 years ago, right? Got to the quarters and had one Novak Djokovic kind of put his nascent run on ice. But as you see, Ben's been the better player as a result of it. And while he's still catching Mr. Novak in terms of that kind of a matchup, feel like he was the recipient of a quality, I'm going to say experience for having understood, okay, played well. Now I've got to be that good.
Okay, so I like the Ben and Novak comparison here, because if you look at Eva's results over the last year, take that Jasmine Paolini match from a couple days ago. Jasmine a little under the weather, that's fine. We'll take that. That happens.
Sure.
Eva did what she needed to do, but you
Right.
look at the fact that Eva has played Jasmine twice this year, took a set off her, I think it was Indian Wells, but lost to Jasmine, and then lost to Jasmine again, I believe, at the U.S. Open, maybe. But then came back in the third iteration of their little rivalry there and took her down. Right.
Yep. Yep.
I'm gonna use that as a facsimile for. I'm gonna use her 2 matches against Rybakina this year. She played Rybakina at the Australian Open. Sorry, last year. Rybakina versus Jovic, Australian Open last year. Rybakina beat her 0-3, right?
Okay.
That's I think Rybakina is probably the closest facsimile you're going to get to Aryna when it comes to big serve, big ground strokes, large, like someone who's going to dominate from the baseline.
Sure.
Okay.
Right.
You move forward. She played Rybakina again at Roland Garros, lost to her again, but it was a little bit closer this time. I believe it was like 3-3. Don't quote me on that one. So now you take those two two different instances in which she's played a top 10 player twice. Played Paolini twice, played Rybakina twice, took the learning from the Paolini matches, and then was able to elevate her game enough to win the match the third time. I'm not saying that she's going to, that one Rybakina is just like playing Sabalenka, but it's pretty close. So I don't think she's going to come into this match feeling like I've never seen this level before.
This level of
she
ball.
has seen this before. She's seen this before. Now, whether or not she'll be able to adjust to it is a different thing. Whether or not the moment, she hasn't seen it in the quarterfinals of a Grand Slam, right? With four matches in her legs already. Right. So that's interesting, but I think it's the perfect litmus. The only thing, I mean, within the first 4 games, I think you might have mentioned this earlier, we'll know exactly where she is. And if she can handle this as a player, she's never going to get any bigger, right? She might. She's pretty young. She might. But yeah, I think I'm excited for this one. I think it's going to be fun. I feel like we were just talking about who's going to fill the void on the American side, like who's next, who's coming. One Eva Jovic has raised her hand and says, "I'm right here, homie. I'm right here."
That's right.
What's up, you call?
Exactly.
Yeah. And speaking of Americans, and one last thing. Between Vicky Mboko and Eva Jovic, it's really cool to see these two women kind of arrive at the same time when I would say 11 months ago, they were playing in a 1-2-5 against each other in Rome, Georgia. And then they also played doubles together in the Australian Open this year. Lost a 6th and the 3rd, something like that, in their first or second round match. But it's again, it speaks to the pedigree, right? We always talk about those who can do it at the highest level in any level, who perform and win, tend to move that along to the next level and to the next level and to the next level. So when you see players like you go back and look at these 1-2-5s and 100s from last year, and you see players like Jovic, and you see players like Mboko. You also see some players like Maya Joint, and you also see some players, the young lady who beat Bencic.
Giacomo.
I'm losing her name.
No. Not Giacomo. I know you're talking about.
Yeah.
Barntukova.
Yeah, there you go. Also playing in those same events, and now you see them like they're playing each other in the semifinals and finals of these events, week in, week out, week out, and then all of a sudden the ESPN consumption crowd is like, who are these players? And if you've been paying attention, they've been there, they've been coming.
100%.
But moving along from one up and coming American to one stalwart American, Coco Gauff is matching up with Elina Svitolina in the next quarterfinal. It's almost like, I mean, I want to take the Svitolina path here quickly. She came into this event hot, won the warm-up event. She's playing solid tennis. She has been, I mean, not to take this direction, but obviously she's a Ukrainian player. Ever since the conflict in the Ukraine between Ukraine and Russia, she has overperformed against Russian players. I think winning something like 85% of her matches against Russian players. So she really brings some, for her. There seems to be a lot of purpose in those matchups. Took down Mirra Andreeva pretty solidly. That was a I'm not. Are you worried about Mirra? By any chance? Like, I feel like there seem to be certain matches where she maybe just doesn't fully show up, and it looks like, oddly enough, late night matches in Grand Slams, I feel like it's just not there for her. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's something.
So this is a great segue to talk about the progressions of a breakout player. You have Eva Jovic, who is breaking out now. You have Vicky Mboko, who broke out last year, right? And now you've got Mirra Andreeva, who broke out, give or take, 2 years ago, right? At that, give or take, right? So you have, if you look at the rocket model, right, you've got, at some point, you lose the bottom, the base of that rocket ship, right? It falls back to whatever and splash down into somewhere in the Atlantic or Pacific, what have you, right? Now you have the next stage of the rocket that starts to fire and move forward. I feel like Mirra's rocket, her Titan V, she's lost that bottom. She's now trying to push to the upper echelons, and she's really trying to push through. And I feel like it's time for Mirra to retool. He's now going off of the thrust off of that second stage of her rocket, which unfortunately isn't as much as the first. The first was enough to get her, to close to, if not just past top 10 status, which is great. She's doing great. I think her whole game, everything is solid. There are no weaknesses. Everything can only get better. But now we're at a point where we have to continue to get better with our tools. Her transition game, to me, Alvin, still could be not only done more and her get more confidence in it, it could be a lot. She simply doesn't take as many step ups as I would like. She doesn't flatten the ball out as much as I would like. And she doesn't convert that to coming in as much as I would like. There are players that are bigger and stronger than she is that do this better, Aryna being one of the best. And there are players
Mhm.
that counter a little better with like the Mahovas of the world. And then there's players that don't come in as much and pass you like you're standing still, like the Egas and the Cocos. And ironically, one of the skills that each of these players I just mentioned, each of these players has continued to retool, right? Coco with her serve and forehand. Iga's forehand is the best I've seen it ever. And Aryna, the reigning number one, is still retooling her game and working on different nuances and continuing to do things. What Mirra hasn't done, and I'm sure Conchita Martinez and the camp are going to address this, if not, someone else will, they have not continued to retool Mirra's game. She's still kind of, I'm going to say, polishing. In my opinion, she should be retooling and starting to work on, okay, I know I'm this good. Can I start to challenge the true top 10 and top 5? And up to this point, she has not done that. That's where she's at. Am I worried about her? Absolutely not. She's got way too much time, way too many things to continue to develop. Um, and I feel like the fact that she's there off of the first stage of the rocket is a pretty good sign. I think we'll be talking about this 2 or 3 years about how impressed we are with how much she's continued to improve, much more than we will be looking at this saying, Mirra just fell off. She didn't do anything. There's just too many things to continue to get better at physically as well as with her game. And when she does, not if, when she does it, I feel like she'll be in a real good place. She's in a good place now. It's just now. Now is the time. Let's not wait any longer.
Okay, understood. Um, Looking forward into the actual quarterfinal matchup, Coco taking on Svitolina. Coco is, from my perspective, it's, same song, different verse. Like
Yeah,
it's never
a little
really
bit.
pretty, but it seems always important towards W's, right?
Yeah, yeah,
She's serving well enough, hitting the forehand well enough, moving
yeah.
as well as ever, fighting is as hard as ever, being as calm and poised in like in these weird situations as ever. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that recipe together, and that ends up with Coco Gauff in the quarterfinals of Grand Slam. Like
That's right.
rinse, repeat.
Routinely.
Um, routinely,
Yeah, yeah.
routinely taking the long way.
Yeah,
But yet here
but
we are.
Alvin, and it's funny you mentioned that. Let's be honest, right? Um, Coco, precarious, I think was the word you were looking for. She finds herself in these
Yes.
precarious moments a lot, and she's very good at it. There was the old fable, like Briar Rabbit and the Briar Patch, right? Oh, please,
Yeah.
whatever you do,
There you
don't
go.
throw me in the Briar Patch, right? That's Coco. Please, whatever you don't run me. Please don't run me. I hate getting ran. Nod, nod, wink, wink. And so at the end of the day, she's perfected the Briar Patch, right? What I feel like she's done better than most, and again, I mentioned it just a few minutes ago. She is getting her all court game to back into her singles game. And I feel like we all know how good of a doubles player she was. She was actually a pretty good doubles player and doubles champion before she became a Grand Slam champion on that side of things. So I feel like coming forward has been big for her. Her slice has only gotten better. Her feeling on the net was always good. Only starting to show more. I feel like if you're waiting for Coco Gauff to step up and wow you with phenomenal this, that, and the third, you know, get the check now because you're probably not going to see that, dare I say, ever. In fact, that's not where really, to me, where her mutant ability lies. Coco has a mutant ability to take whatever your best is and use it against you She can grind, she can slap, she can slide, she can dink, she can do a lot of things that in reality can just have a way of just taking what you do well against you. And it's funny, the Haley Baptiste match was one that I really enjoyed watching because Haley actually out hit Coco. And for those, I know you probably
Yep.
saw some of the match as
She
well.
sure did. Yep.
Haley actually out hit and hits a bigger ball than Coco. Make no mistake. Haley's unfortunate, I'm going to say her burden, and I've said this before on this podcast, ball speed and foot speed. Haley out hits herself, right? And at the end of the day, as big as Haley hit, Coco has the speed to handle it. One of the best parts of Coco's game is not just her speed, it's the fact that her ball speed isn't as big. So when you crank up the notches a little bit on the MPH, Coco's right at home. She's not rarely out hitting herself. Other players, when they go bigger, this goes from Aryna down to the Haley Baptiste of the world, you do so at your own peril because the bigger you go, Coco's going to be there. I promise you that. So that's, to me, is one of the things you have to really kind of understand about her game style is that she actually enjoys not only being ran, she prefers the pace. And as long as the pace is the main thing you have, you will always have a counter because her speed is the weapon, not her ball. And the fact that her ball is getting better when she gets there is a 1-2 punch. You don't think it'll come back. It comes back with interest. And guess what? You might be on the run from your own ball. And isn't that the whole definition, Alvin, of counter punish? Isn't that the whole hurt somebody when they least expect it, when they think they're the one hurting you? And that to me is what Coco does better than anybody. So is it going to be pretty? No, not necessarily. It's going to get prettier. It's going to get cleaner. But I feel like, Venus did this a lot when she was coming up. She was so tall and so long, especially on the grass. You had Venus stretched out. You thought you had her. She hit some of the most amazing passing shots, some of the best open stance shots. Her returns were almost better than her serve, and she was serving 125. Tall, 6'2". She got so comfortable. You quit running Venus. You started hitting balls top the middle of Venus because you realize don't run Venus, please. You'll get crushed. And I think Coco is that way. The difference is Coco might be faster than Venus, and you're in a situation now where I feel like that's maybe the underwritten or the underrated part of her game is that she is more comfortable in that moment than you are. You who have spent years being an attacking player, you've never seen a speedster with the tool set that Coco Gauff has.
So I think that's an interesting way to look at this upcoming matchup, though, because I want to come back to the foot speed and ball speed paradigm a little bit later when we start talking about Carlos and his path right now. But Svitolina, in the majority of her career, has been a counter puncher, a true counter puncher, and
Sure.
post childbirth and coming back onto the tour, becoming a more effective player as a counter punisher, and
Yep.
oftentimes being a dictator.
Yep.
I feel like these two ladies haven't played since like 2024 U.S. Open, but in their last two matchups, I think both in 2024, both went 3 sets. Now
Yep.
Coco won both of those, but I feel like this matchup, I feel like right now Svitolina is playing sharper tennis.
I agree.
Not that she's playing sharper tennis. I don't know what that means going
Comparatively
against Coco
speaking.
Gauff,
Right.
comparatively speaking. But then I say that, but also like Coco, her sharp tennis, it's kind of hard to define. If she's in the tournament, she's playing sharp enough. Like she can play this tennis all the way through and win the Grand Slam, right? So,
and win the slam for sure.
I
Yeah.
yeah, but I feel like Svitolina is not a straightforward matchup. I feel like she's not going to out hit herself,
Yep.
but she will take her opportunities to pressure Coco
Yep.
and is not afraid to come forward to the net and finish off points either. So this isn't the matchup that jumps off the page as much as maybe
Right.
the other three do actually.
Right.
But I feel
Right.
like this is the one where if Svitolina were to win this match like 4-4, I actually wouldn't be all that surprised, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm
but
with
then
you on
also
I wouldn't be
Coco won at 7-5
surprised.
in the third. I wouldn't be surprised either.
Right. Right. I would never. I would. It will certainly be a tough, contested match. I could certainly see it going the distance with a few tiebreakers as well. I think the best thing that happened to Elina Svitolina was watching Gael lose in the first and second round and just kind of getting motivated. Like, yeah, man, that was sad. She made a comment on one of the, I don't know if it was a post or if it was one of the articles about how sad it was to watch him play one of his last matches there. And I think that deep down, as sentimental as it may have been, and obviously Gail is a little older than she is, I think it helped her to realize, man, I'm not ready to go out yet. I think that's kind of fired her up a little bit on a personal note. I also think that she also has been the recipient of a pretty good draw for her game style, much like Eva Jovic has. And again, there's never that never happens on purpose. That's just the luck of the draw, as they say. But I think that this would be a good match for Coco. She'll be tempted to try to out hit Aryna Sabalenka, but I think that if she stays true to what she does, it's very difficult for that style to create and go bigger. And that tends to be what they do because you feel like you're not doing enough or the ball's sitting there enough, you almost have to. And neither player is a huge, big striker off the rip. So it'll be fun to see who takes the bait, right? And then who obviously counters who in that matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's bounce forward. JPEG versus Anisimova.
Yep.
Wanna take the Anisimova path first, before we come back to Jessica. She is, as you kind of alluded to earlier, she's on the right trajectory in this tournament, like working her way into the event, getting better match after match after match. The first set against Wang was fun tennis. Like both women serving big, playing big tennis. I'm excited to see what Wang is able to put together the rest of this year. China's got another really good one here.
Yeah.
And I felt that it was even right down to the tiebreaker, just the one mini break. It was a game of tug of war until one player blinked first, and
Right.
Amanda really drawing on the experiences that she's built over the last 18 months, as a top end player, especially in the last 9 months,
Yep.
really showed up in that tiebreaker. And then the thing I was also most impressed with was like, okay, she wins a tight tiebreaker.
Right.
I mean, 7-4, I think it was in the breaker, no breaks to serve in that set, and
Yep.
then
Yep.
breaks Wang in the very first game of the next set. And you could
Yep.
kind of see, I saw a very small similarity in that game versus what I saw in the, I would say, third set of Rude versus Shelton, that finished up early this morning. Once you can kind of break their will just a little bit, right? When you
Yep.
work that hard just to
Yep.
be down 2-1, or work that hard to be down a set and now a break, it's like that
Yep.
that can almost be it. That can almost be it. And that one break was all that Amanda needed, to get a hold of that second set and then march her way through. But I've been extremely impressed with not only the way she's playing, but her composure. You've seen fewer of those outbursts from her, little parts of pieces of disappointment throughout the match where she would usually emote to her box. She seems very focused on not wasting the energy because it's
Yeah.
pretty hot out there.
Yep, I think she was pretty vocal. Especially in this one here early on. I think Wang or Wong, however I say her name, did a great job. Phenomenal player, by the way. Just a great serve, good returns. Tall, Alvin. I think she's 183 centimeters.
Yeah.
At that looks it's right at 6 feet or a little over. And with my math, she's taller than Amanda,
Sneaky tall.
which is sneaky tall, right? And she didn't look like it until I'm like, man, this girl seems tall. But they passed by at the net once, and I was like, wow, she actually taller than Amanda. And Amanda's
Yeah,
tall.
she's 6
Anyway,
foot.
so I say that to say what I was impressed with in that match was two things. Number one, she wasn't playing her best tennis, Amanda. And number two, she won that breaker after a flurry of errors after trying to go bigger. Wong did a nice job of not giving her too much pace, tons of rolls, lots of good balls, just kind of almost baited her to take that shot, but without a lot of high tempo. And I'm seeing this a lot now. The players around the tour are starting to realize if you roll a little bit more early, these big hitters don't like to create pace off that high flapper. It's just a tough ball to handle, especially balls in the middle. And the players like going a little more on the rise. They're going to hit the ball a little early, a little more out, a little more cross than they want to be, and they're just not going to generate the same clear pace. And we all know that Amanda's backhand is world class, if not best in the world right now. The forehand can be a little erratic from time to time. Alvin, she clutched that tiebreaker on one of the biggest forehands of her whole match, as if to say, I'm going to hit my ball regardless. I have to. That's what I do.
Yeah.
Much like a Madison Keys. And she nailed the back of the line on a forehand that kind of took, and I think that gave her the, excuse me, the confidence of landing that ball. It wasn't like she wasn't hitting the ball. She just wasn't landing them before that. And I think that confidence of her making that shot really gave her the confidence to kind of push forward. And then you start sawing, as you said, you start to see a little chink in the armor from Jin Yu. But I'm gonna tell you, that was a good match, and you got to watch out for this young Chinese girl, Alvin. She beat JPEG last year, Wimby. She beat Coco, I think, last year as well. She's starting to notch her belt with a lot of good singles wins, and has already won. I want to say they said multiple slams already in doubles and in mixed. So she is certainly, while we don't. Well, we haven't heard a lot from her yet in singles. She is certainly a force to reckon with on the double side of things. So this is not a fluke.
Yeah, she took out Noskova in the round prior, which is, I've been very high on Linda Noskova, and I think a lot of other people have as well. And she took her out pretty cleanly, like it was a
Yep.
match she expected to win. So
Right.
I'm with you right there. Definitely one to keep an eye on. And she's 24 years old, so she's starting to come into
Yeah.
her prime here. So this could be, all signs pointing towards a player to watch and someone you expect to
Right.
be seated in the coming slams.
Yep.
Coming slams.
Yep.
Geez, we won't have another slam till June at this point. But
Mhm.
so Amanda's opponent, Jessica Pegula, they've met 3 times, but not since 2024. So I think the 2025 version of Amanda Anisimova is the one that we
Mhm.
should be focusing on, not necessarily 2024. So I'm going to call this a relatively fresh matchup.
Sure.
But JPEG, hats off to her, man. She's playing clean tennis right now. She took down Maddie. It's a very interesting matchup to me personally. Madison.
Yeah.
If it's not there, uh,
Right. Right.
it's not necessarily the prettiest thing.
Yeah.
The distance between Maddie's A game and her B game is
Right.
it's a pretty long walk.
100%.
But the
100%.
high end of her A game is what we all fall in love with, right? And
Right.
that's the one that won the Grand Slam last year. So
Yep.
Madison didn't serve as
Right.
well as she would have liked. I think that
Yep.
was one part. Both ladies struggled serving on the far end
Right.
from the
With the
camera
sun.
side, and
Yep.
two, Jessica was returning lights out, like lights out, forcing Maddie to go bigger and bigger on second serves as well.
Yep.
So I think just Jessica's ability to hold the middle of the court, move Maddie from side to side, and force Maddie to go for broke a little more often than she probably wanted to.
Right.
Just kind of is, I think, more of a testament to how smart of a player Jessica is and how well she's playing right now.
I would add, I would not only would I see you, I see you and I'll raise you one. Yes, on all points. Also felt like Maddie lost more than Jessica beat her. Maddie wanting to get that first strike, wanting to make up for what the serve didn't do because she didn't make enough firsts, felt overplayed quite a bit. And Jessica, ironically, who can be a little more aggressive with her returns from time to time. She wasn't as aggressive, Alvin, as she was penetrating and hit a lot of balls deep right at
Yeah,
Maddie off that return to serve. Jessica's known to take that back and inside in herself on that deuce side and the backhand line and be a little more aggressive sometimes. She was laser focused on every rip I hit, or the majority, are going to go right at you. I'm going to take that tall 6 foot frame and I'm going to bundle you up. I'm going to just absolutely jam you. And I thought that was a smart way to play. An old coach that I knew had this great comment. He says, there's 2 ways to win. You can beat someone or you can let them lose. And I felt like she did a nice mix of both, but she let Maddie beat herself with some of those errors that Maddie's prone to make, which is not playing as clean and as sharp. There was about, I counted, 10 points, 3 or 4 that were just classic vintage Madison Keys. Big strike corner, big strike backhand, inside in. Wow. I mean, 100 mile an hour forehand in the corner that you were like, yeah. it's still there. And Jessica, don't get into a side to side, showdown with this. You're gonna let Maddie get right back into this thing. And and then Jessica went right back hard middle, couple of low slices, like, let's slow this thing down a bit, shall we? Let's get this thing back on
Yep.
my terms. And I say that to say I thought it was as much of Jessica chose to play her as much as it was Madison being a little off and maybe not on her game. And again, a lot of that was missing some first serves that she's normally pretty good at making and feeling the pressure to have to make up for it somewhere else. So hats off to both of them. Great match. They've been good friends and been on tour for a long time together. Madison obviously shot out to the top. Was at the finals of Grand Slams, darn near 10 years ago, where Jessica's now on the tail end of her career, kind of catching up there late, but in the end, they all get there, don't they? The great ones. So it was great to see, and I was happy to see. If anybody had to beat her, I was happy to see another American, and a good friend of hers take her out. If it had to be a loss.
Yeah, and it's they do have the podcast together, so you've got I think first
Right.
time podcast co-hosts have met each other at a
Right,
Grand Slam,
right,
right? So that's a little fun angle,
Yep.
But yeah, it's interesting. I feel like let's imagine they finish out their careers at this particular trajectory, and I wonder whose career you take if Jesse never
Mm,
wins a Grand Slam, and let's say
mm,
Madison never wins another one. Like Madison has seen the highest of the high, but I feel like Jessica, with the body of work of the last 5 years, being
yeah.
consistently in quarterfinals, semifinals of Grand Slams, it's even making a final there. It's an interesting one. I don't know. Maybe it's a
Yeah.
little early for that conversation, but it's definitely what am I going to say? Jessica Bugula is just making
Yeah.
me look dumb again. Um, but
Good match though. Good match.
that'll be a fun match. That will be a fun match. Her matchup with Amanda Anisimova, American tennis is looking pretty good right now. Okay, last matchup on the women's side here. Rybakina versus Swiatek, and I feel like both women right now are just kind of quietly, minus one weird set that Iga had against Kalinskaya. Both women are
Right.
just kind of quietly getting the job done, matriculating through the draw. And
Right.
holy hell, do we have a match on our hands coming up
Yeah.
in two
Yeah.
days' time?
Yep. Agree. I agree.
Eh,
I don't think Rebecca has even been pushed. I was trying to look back through the matches. Has she had anything closer than a 6-3 set? I mean, from what I'm looking at, maybe I missed one,
No, but
but
like who's gonna
uh,
push her? She only gets pushed by like four
for
women in
sure,
the world, and she hadn't played
for
any of them yet.
sure, for sure. But to my point, like not at all. I would say the same with Sabalenka, and she's been in 3 tie breaks. I'm just saying, and she hadn't dropped a set either, but she's seen 3 tie breaks
That's true.
in short order. I'm just saying, I don't think Rebecca's even been pushed that much. I was wondering if the 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 jet stream of last year would peter out, so to speak, and Rebecca would kind of come back to earth a little bit. She had a chip on her shoulder. She finished the end of the year phenomenal. Could not have played better tennis, especially knocking off all the players, including Iga, including Aryna, all of them back to back to back. It seemed like. I mean, it's almost like who couldn't she beat? And so I was curious to see, can she maintain that level though going into next year? And up to this point, Alvin, she's done so. I would like to say Iga's forehand is as best as I've ever seen it. She looks confident. She's going for it. Serve is better. But more importantly, she's returning the ball off of the crunch return back better as well. She's not, I'm going to say, not smothering it like she used to and trying to take it back on the rise so quickly, which often coughed up another short ball, getting her on the run. She's striking the ball quite a lot better, a lot deeper. And of course, doing the same like she always has done with her good returns. I feel like she's improved as much as anybody. Uh, we talk about other improvements, Coco and Aryna. I think Iga's worked a lot on her game and and went back to retool. And I've been really impressed with what she's done. This match will be a very good one to see where the rivalry goes forward, but it's a bigger one to me for Elena Rybakina. Is this the year she breaks out to become the number one player in the world? I think beating Iga would that would set up a huge possible final with should Sabalenka get there as well. And to be honest, I see that matchup with everything going on right now. I see that matchup being more in Rebecca's favor, even at this early stage. And I don't want to look too far ahead, but just on the matchup, he's just a better mover for, as far as big of a hitter as she is. And when you have everything else that's equal, as far as pace and serve and returns and weapons, and you add in, oh, and by the way, move better than most, and I move better than all, at my height and size. And I am that clean off the ground as well. That's a lot to defend.
Yeah, agreed. And last year, I think the overall record's something like it's pretty close to 500. I think maybe Iga's up 6-5 or down 5-6. Not quite sure, but they played 5 times last year,
Yeah.
and Iga won the first 4 of those matchups
Right.
until Rebecca was able to turn the tide in Riyadh in the World Tour
Riyadh.
Finals. So
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's an interesting one. Like you mentioned, Rebecca and his momentum coming out of last year. I think we were both on the same page of like, okay, this looks like top end one in the world type
Yep.
tennis. Is it a right now thing, or has she hit that level that
Right.
she's ready to
Right.
sustain? She's had, she's showed it in this event thus far. Looked extremely efficient and dominant against Mertens. Yeah, well, I mean, we're right where we want to be, not just with this particular matchup, but with the draw right now.
Yep.
We've got all the major players here. Um,
Right.
Quarterfinals on out, it's going to be a shootout. There are no bad
Mm.
matches. There are no scrubs. There are no surprises. There are professionals everywhere. I mean, Jovic is a surprise, right?
Yep.
But it's
Sure.
but I feel like this will be the first of many quarterfinals for her, most likely. So this is a this is women's tennis in a nutshell right now, where
It
it's
is.
so good.
It is.
It's
It
so
is.
good. It's so
So
good.
good. There's
Let's
not
do
a
this.
bad match.
Let's take a break and
Yep.
yep. Let's take a break and we'll come back and we'll tackle the men's half of this tournament. And we're back. All right. So in part 1, we talked about the women's quarterfinal matchups. In part 2 here, we're going to cover the men. We'll
Yep.
start from the very top. Waste no time. Carlos Alcaraz against Alex de Minaur.
Yep.
Carlos is, his match against Tommy was what I would consider the true shift in the tournament for him, right? As
Right.
he didn't play any warm-up events, comes in the tournament, kind of get himself collected,
Right.
acclimated, playing decent tennis. But he was able to, as a term that's come up a lot, a phrase that's come up a lot in this last week, is he has found another gear. He has shifted gears, right? Before I want to talk about what shifting gears actually means, but first I want to talk about one thing I've noticed in this Tommy Paul versus Carlos Alcaraz matchup, and get your perspective on it as well. Tommy Paul, by the numbers, is one of the most athletic players on tour. Fantastic
For
mover,
sure.
extremely quick, agile, top end speed, all the stuff you're looking for in an athletic tennis player. It
Yep.
goes without saying, Carlos Alcaraz is right there, if not a little bit above. And I always consider Tommy Paul to be somewhat of a Carlos light. He does a lot of Carlos type things, just not at that level. And I mean, you can take or leave that, but the the thing that I noticed in that match, and one of the commentators started to tip on it just a little bit, was Tommy can move with Carlos,
Mhm.
but Tommy's ball can't hurt Carlos. He doesn't actually hit it hard enough to ever catch Carlos out of position.
Mhm.
And where some players might be out of position and not able to get set and then, drive traffic in the way that they want to, Carlos is going to get there, and he always has enough time to deliver the amount of pace that he wants to deliver against Tommy. Where you look at the other side of that coin, Tommy's going to be a little bit behind in most rallies there, and it'll show up by about ball 6, ball 7. Like I said, he can move with Carlos, like he can move with him, and I think it shows up a little less on clay. But when you start getting onto hard court, I, he just I'm going to say he just doesn't hit it hard enough. But he just doesn't hit it hard enough. And
Sure.
most players don't, right? That's why Jannik Sinner's the only person giving Carlos any damn trouble these days. And
Yep.
Novak has to kind of close up all the corners and make Carlos play through the middle for that
Right.
same reason.
Right.
But what I want to get, one, what's your take on that? And then
Yep.
two, also, how do you define changing gears for a player?
Hit the first one first. Ball speed and foot speed. We were talking about it in the previous podcast, or the previous part of the same podcast. Tommy Paul, and I've known Tommy since he was 10, 11 years old. He's from the Southern Section, North Carolina. Even played a few tournaments with one of my players. Shout out to my boy Jay Chentham, who used to be top in the 12s and 14s and whatnot before Tommy moved to the USCA down out there. And I don't know if it was still Boca then or if it was Orlando. I think it was still Boca back then.
Yeah.
Bottom line, I've seen this young man grow up. I've seen him and his sister. They're good players, good athletes. Tommy's just continued to do some nice things. So I've known him for a long time. The foot speed and ball speed is a bit of an enigma. But as you know, you were a fast player, and could you almost hit better on the run when you were playing your best, moving you to either way. I think you got a little bit more greedier with your forehand from time to time, but your on-run backhand was pretty solid. And it hurt when people decided to run you, they did so at their own peril. I feel like that's what Tommy has perfected. The problem is, though, at a certain point, you have a certain amount of ball speed that you're comfortable with when you find that groove. Tommy is a much different player than Ben, a much different player than Fritz. Fritz is on the other end of that spectrum. He's more power than he has speed. That might be his Achilles heel. He can out-hit himself. He can out-hit you. But same time, when that ball comes back, he's a step slow. And I think those are that's just the cards we're dealt with to some degree, and to some level, we continue to play that hand that we're dealt. We were talking about with the players earlier, and we don't have to talk too much about the ladies anymore, since we covered them already. But that same equivalent, you see it more in the women's game, right? Ladies that can flat out just move and cover the court, and almost better on the run. We mentioned Coco Gauff being the poster child of this. Tommy is that person. I think Alex de Minaur is someone very similar. He's just got an Australian address versus a Florida or North Carolina address. They're both very similar players. Fast, incredibly good on the move, on the run. So much so they extend the court so much that you think you have them on the run, they're just on the move. But when you have that ability, that extra gear you're talking about, like Carlos, to hurt somebody, that means, so now I'm going behind you. I can actually hurt you more than you hurt me when you ran me. And Carlos has the ability to do it on both sides. That produces a little bit of occasionally errant behavior out of Carlos, and probably a little bit more of a known entity with Tommy. But at the same time, if it's dialed in, you can't stop it, because he has the same speed you have and the ability to take his ball up one more gear. Now, your second point about the extra gear. The extra gear is any number of things. It can be a second weapon, sometimes even a third weapon. It can be your comfortability off the other side. It can be your ability to come forward, not just hit from the back. It can be the ability to adjust and really mask, or I should say, shut down what you've been doing before and not let you see it again. I think Alcaraz has a sixth gear. He might even have a seventh gear in there, because he's still developing a lot of the things that he can do, and he showed that a lot last year. He can also take pace off the ball now, and then still whip the ball big and create his own pace, which I think is something that it's actually a very hard skill. Most players that have the ability to hit pace through you tend to be big hitters, and they don't necessarily take pace off. They're going to finish you. And most players that are counterpunishers or counterpunchers rarely can counterpunish at the highest level. They counterpunish against guys that can't hit through them, right? So that they have that ability to do it only when you can't do it, they can't go through them. When they are then hit through, some of them are very comfortable, the de Minaurs and the Tommy Pauls, until they reach a player that's as fast as they are, that can also go through them.
Right.
And to your point, and one of your great terms that I like, that profile of player is rare. right? Unfortunately, that's one of the players that we have come up in Carlos Alcaraz. I think Yannick is that player. I think Novak is, of course, the poster child for this style player. Although 38, 39 years old, he's clearly getting a little long in the tooth, but he still can do that and has that ability to do that very, very well. So that's the issue. Is it isn't so much about what the gear is. The gear is multiple things. Different players have a few more tools in that with that ability, and they have that same speed. And I think that's what Tommy, even Demon, kind of struggle with a little bit, is not necessarily the true racket speed while on the move, or not the racket speed off the standstill to just go through you as much as they would like, as much as they needed against these kind of players. They love the consistency of their current pace with 10 through 9, 10 through 100, but 9 through number one, that's where it starts to show up.
Yeah, and then going from Tommy to Demon, as Carlos will, and that's never not funny.
Mhm.
We're looking at a very similar matchup
For sure.
for Carlos here, and we've talked kind of ad nauseum about. Actually, we covered this exact matchup at World Tour Finals, right? Like
Yep.
this is where levels start to meet, right? Carlos is
Right.
5-0 lifetime against Demon, and it's kind of for a reason, right? It's not by
Yep.
accident. It is if both players execute, rock beats scissors, right?
That's
Rock
right.
beats scissors.
That's
Like
right.
you mentioned, Carlos has found the ability, as he himself is continuing to evolve as a player.
Yep.
I think you called it out specifically, not always blistering that forehand, the ability to add more shape, more spin, allows him to then set up for, let's say it's the forehand
Yes.
cross court with more spin, allows him to set up even for that backhand cross, or to slide
Right.
over and then get the next forehand from the middle inside out,
Yep.
or take the forehand line heavy, slide over, get the next forehand from the middle of the court and go inside in.
Yep.
He is not just injecting pace and speed and rock and roll all the time. He is now throwing in some jazz and throwing in some classic and really
Yep. Yep.
blending out the way he wants to attack a player, player by player, set by set, circumstance by circumstance. And I think that's the not only within a match shifting gears, but even within one's career shifting gears. That's the kind of complexity you're starting to see Carlos
Yep.
work into his game.
Yep.
Um, and I feel like we just talked about this in November, but like one of the reasons why Demon struggles so much with Carlos is Carlos's ability to bring that ball deep at a trajectory that does not allow Alex to take it off of the rise and hit it cleanly.
Yep.
Alex wants to stand on that baseline,
Yep.
smack flat. Um,
Yep.
Not that he's an overly aggressive player, but like that's just the way he wants to come through the court. He wants to come through on the rise, come through flat, and you're
Yep.
not going to be able to do that with that ball. Like
Yep.
Carlos hits it too hard, too deep, too much spin. Um,
Right.
it comes off a little squirrely, and then Carlos is on your ass. So,
Yep.
what do you think? What do you think Alex can do to make this matchup look different than the most previous ones? Let's put it that way.
He can make this match up be a little more of an athletic contest, more drop shots, occasional, get get Carlos in being a little greedy. Carlos being such an athlete, right? He has a tendency to be a showman all the time. He likes showing you up. You almost have to give him enough bait to hurt himself. A drop shot does that, gives you the ability. Now it's going to take you being up 30 love, because if you burn that point, you're going to want to have the cushion of the score on the right behind you. But he's going to have to not only go behind him more often, he's going to have to throw in a few droppers, convert a lot of returns, not give a lot of easy misses. Carlos will and always will be a little bit, he'll be a little erratic from time to time. And when he is, you have to take advantage of it. He's got so many options. He's gonna try something one time, just to see if he can do it. Right. And in those moments, you've got to make Carlos pay. And that's where I feel like that's his own, I say his only shot. That's his best shot, is to get Carlos greedy, go behind him, convert a few break points, turn what would be a 15 all into a love 30 more often, and get Carlos to have to earn each one of those. especially to me, when he's serving. Do I find because he has so much confidence in the serve. He has the tendency to just be a little bit greedy and go for some first strikes when he shouldn't. And it'd be interesting to see if Alex can really make him play a disciplined match. Because if he can do that, then he has a shot.
Yeah, I feel like with all of the variety that Carlos has at his disposal, we sometimes overlook how disciplined he actually is and
Is
can
sure.
be.
Right.
And I think that's I think Holger Rune mentioned it in his in the podcast with Andy Roddick maybe a couple of weeks ago about how disciplined Carlos actually is and how much he thinks on the court and how fast he
Right.
is to make changes within matches.
Right.
I don't. I think Carlos is going to come into this match. Obviously, let us not forget we're at Alex's house now, right? This is
Right.
a home match for Alex. It's going to be, I imagine, it's going to be at night. It's going to be the Showtime match of the evening, and that is a different scenario.
Sure.
Carlos doesn't come into tennis matches as not the fan
Right.
favorite, right?
Right.
This will be the first time in a Grand Slam that has happened to him.
Mhm.
Very unique situation, and I would imagine if this match is going to get tricky, Alex is going to actually have to do something different.
Yep.
Like continuing to play the best version or best brand of his own tennis is not going to work. It's not like he loses to Carlos because he just doesn't play well or
Right.
like he's not executing. What he does just doesn't seem to hurt Carlos much. And now you extrapolate that over 3/5. Like I don't think they've played in a Grand Slam before, so it's been mostly it's been all 2 out of 3 set matches.
Yep.
Give Carlos more space. I don't think Alex wants more space. I think he wants less space, right?
No, less.
So,
And
I some of the stuff that we talked about with that Carlos has brought into his game recently,
right.
shape, variety. I would
More
imagine
net.
Alex would
Yeah.
Alex would do himself some
Yeah.
favors by, taking some backhands high cross court to then kind of sneak over and slap a forehand or, be able to ghost a little bit more because he does it so well. He just doesn't give himself those opportunities against Carlos.
He played him pretty close, Alvin, in the first set of the match in the ATP final. That
Yeah,
first
yeah,
set I thought was as good as I've ever seen Alex play Carlos, and I think if he goes back and looks at the tape of that match and what he was doing, he just wasn't able to sustain it. Large part Carlos, and a large part maybe he got away from it, didn't have the same opportunities. Not sure. I didn't see all of it. What I will say is that it was as good as I've seen him look against him. And that's why I was saying go behind him early. Hold serve, body him up, go back behind him. Fast players always want to get a jump on the ball. It's part of their nature, it's part of their DNA. They're gonna go for that ball. They're gonna kind of get a sense you're gonna go there, and they're gonna get over there and get low and try to rip that ball to go through you. So you have to keep him on his toes, keep changing direction a lot without blowing your own discipline and your own patterns as well. Sneaking in from time to time on a lot of the block returns. We've seen a block return be very, very effective. Only if the guy won't come in, right? So if the server won't come in behind it, and if he's not going to come behind it, Carlos has very good passes. At the same time, Alex has pretty good volleys. So Carlos is going to come in a time or two. So I think he needs to take a little bit of he needs to kind of give Carlos a taste of his own medicine as often as he can.
yep. Fair enough. I will give a quick shout out to Bublik. The Bublik, by shocker, has a YouTube special out called, I think it's called The Ringmaster, which is like, I didn't know tennis was so poppin' that Alexander Bublik is getting YouTube documentaries made about him. But here we are. We've come a long way. We've come a long way. Or maybe I'm just not aware that he's a household name, but we'll find out.
Oh,
But
buddy.
he, I think in his first Grand Slam, since he's become the Bublik that we've known over the last 9 months or so, played up to a seed, right?
Yep.
He
Yep.
should lose this match, and I think even as much of a well-rounded player as he's become, settled himself down a little bit. I do think this is about his ceiling, right? He's not a top 5 player.
Great.
I think Demon is a better all-around tennis player than him right now, especially in these big moments. I would like to see a little more resistance from him in the match against de Minaur, but maybe
Just
that's
came out
also
slow,
part of
man.
his deficiency.
Yeah, but just came out slow. And I felt the same thing with Dardaria. I felt the same thing about a few matches. Just didn't come out sharp. And Demon returns great. Alexander can serve huge, but if he's not serving big, I saw the same thing in Casper Ruud and Cilic. Just didn't come out as sharp as he would like. You know what I mean? And sometimes,
Yeah.
and you know, you saw it a little bit. And to be honest, Ben dodged a bullet here this match. Same thing with him in that first set against Casper Ruud. The big server has the burden, Alvin. For years, they just have relied on that serve. They know they got that big serve to lean on, but when that serve ain't there, a lot of these guys, Casper's one of them, Alex de Minaur is one of them. They got very underrated big serves. Their serve speed's not that far off, and their returns are better. So to me, I think that's what happened with Bublik, and I think he just came in to a bit of a buzzsaw. You know, the crowd got behind him and never left, and Bublik, it
Yep.
took Bublik 3 sets to play a good set. I thought the same thing with Dardari and against Yannick. It was just you could not have played. He couldn't hit a bigger ball than Dardari was doing. I know we'll talk about him in a second, but it just took him 3 sets to play the set that he should have started off with. And I thought Bublik's match was very similar. He just the third set was the one he should have started with. But again, a lot of credit to the guy on the other side, the other Alex, uh, for making that happen. That was no accident.
Okay. All right. Let's keep bouncing here. The next matchup, I think this is the fun one. This is the fun one.
Yeah.
We've got
Yep.
Zverev versus Tien, right? 1-1 lifetime. Let's even throw that out because it was a little bit different times, right? Tien beat Alex. I think it was Acapulco, beat him in straight sets beginning of last year, but Alex was a little sick. Okay, fast forward, I think French Open, I think Alex beat Tien in straight sets, but I think we would all agree that Lerner has added a couple different wrinkles to his game since
Yeah.
then. He's evolved as a tennis player, got more 3 out of 5 set matches under his belt.
Yep.
He is, I mean, we went from mid 140s, 120s, something like that last year to
Yep.
being seeded at this year's event in the quarterfinals. He is carrying that American flag forward. Before we get into the matchup, I want to talk a little bit about the importance of Michael Chang being added to Leonard Tien's box. And we all know Michael Chang, the player, but I think his coaching resume is a little underrated as well as what he's actually brought into the Tien camp.
Yep.
So what I guess from a changes that you've noticed in Lerner's game, what are you seeing in this event that was missing, let's just say 3 months ago?
First serve speed, number one. Absolutely. I think his first serve speed might be up 10 to 15 miles an hour. I mean, it's just he's going for it, he's hitting it. It was a huge hole as far as I was concerned. It wasn't underdeveloped. He just wasn't there. He's got his. I saw
Mm-hmm.
it in the Next Gen Championship. He's starting to serve bigger. I still felt he still needs to, but I feel he's serving better now than he was in the Next Gen, and that was November, or early December. So I
December,
felt like
geez, yeah, it was
right. You know what I mean? So how do you get that much more serve speed 2 months later? You know what I mean? So that's been something that I've liked. I really like the fact that he is taking, he's adding more shape, not necessarily a bigger forehand. We talked about the ball speed, foot speed thing again. I've watched him play 3 matches now, or the better parts of 3 matches, and he is hitting his step up bigger, but he's rolling
mm-hmm.
more to get more of them. And I think the learner before was all on the rise. I say all. That was his preference, a lot like de Minaur. But I feel like he's managing his speed and his ball speed very, very well. If you go bigger, Alvin, the problem is you end up hitting yourself out of your own coverage area. So what ends up happening is I feel like they've made a calculated risk to say, okay, we're going to go bigger on these few shots. And we're going to go a little thinner on these because we can't get away from our game, which is court coverage and being a lefty counterpuncher. But we do want to add a little punish when we can. We do want to add that little aggressive baseliner and get some freebies. We shouldn't have to always go 5, right? And so I feel like, and if that's the change that Chang has made, that is buddy, that was probably a hard-learned career lesson for Michael, from years ago that, hey, I was always good. I was always fast. If I could have been better, if I could have been Grand Slam worthy after I won the French, it would have been to add these pieces in spots. The problem with Chang back in the day, and I'm old enough to remember when it all happened, the UST at the time was always big on Chang hitting a bigger ball, getting stronger, hitting the ball harder. In reality, they got him away from his own game. He was great at the speed and at the level that he was at. He started hitting the ball bigger, Alvin, he got slower. He started getting stronger,
Yeah.
he got slower. And so I feel like they've done a great thing with Lerner to get him to add it in spots without sacrificing his identity, right? He's added some wrinkles, he's added a few areas to pop, but he's not lost who he is.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good call out here with the adding more shape. He looks like he's playing more like a lefty, right?
Correct.
And I say that as a left-handed
Sure.
player. When I sat right behind, I damn near courtside against watching his match against Rublev in DC last year, and I'm
Yeah.
watching them play almost very, very similar styles. Like they're both
Yep.
going extremely flat, hard, corner to corner. There was a little bit of missing. Where's the shape? Where's
Right.
the leftiness of it all, right?
Right.
And
Right.
in his last few matches, especially his match against Medi,
Right.
you can just see Lerner really going almost predominantly open stance from
Yep.
the ad side of the court, leaning heavy on that left leg
Right.
and getting that traffic up and out, up and out,
Yep.
up and out.
Yep.
Getting anytime you could see Medi with a foot into the alley, like at
Yep.
that point you start to see like kind of the lefty bread and butter here. You get that big hook, you
Yep.
slide over just a little bit, wait till you catch one in the middle of the court, and then send that traffic hard to the forehand, and that's where Lerner's
Yep.
able to capitalize, right?
Yep.
Lefty hook, lefty hook, lefty hook, lefty sting inside
Yep.
out. And I think that's as you start to look at his evolution, and not only stinging, he's throwing his weight behind that inside out ball,
100%.
like
Right.
full left side coming
And
through.
the down the line as well. I mean, to your point, and I feel like, what are you going to do? Go to his backhand, go down the line. He's got a good backhand too. So I agree with you. And that was exactly my point. It was almost one dimensional, and then it becomes a shootout. Now he was young enough and fast enough. He took Medi out here last year, right? So, but this year I thought he actually beat Medi. I thought the
Right,
years
right.
before he outlasted Medi. He was just a younger, fitter lefty version that took everything Medi had and Medi ran out of gas. Medi couldn't go through him. So Medi lost in that sense. I thought in this iteration, he beat him. He it was on his terms. It wasn't Medi
Yeah.
losing. It wasn't Medi. He allowed Medi to lose. He probably had, I'll look it up soon. I'm sure he had more winners than Medvedev did. And it looked like Medi was fit to be tied. He found no solutions to counter or to beat him.
Yeah.
Fun match.
It was almost like I looked at it briefly. I think it was like 33 winners to 16 or something like that. It was pretty stark. And
Right.
someone will please fact check me in the comments there. But as we look forward to that matchup with Zverev, I saw something, and as I was going through my notes, I saw yours, and it looks like you saw the exact same thing. Like if Zverev is a better, obviously is a better, obviously whatever, a better version of Medi in game style right now, right?
Okay.
There's a lot of, they both want to stay on the baseline. They both want to kind of outlast you, but
Right.
Sasha has, especially in that match against Cerundolo, shown the willingness to step up and tag that forehand. Against Cerundolo, it was going line with the forehand. I think in this particular matchup, if you're going to see that kind of ad court exchange that both players want to get into, honestly, like
Right.
Zverev wants to take that back and cross court all day. Lerner would love to keep Alex pinned in that corner. Alex is going to have to slide around and not necessarily hit the back end of the line. I think it's the slide around, hit the forehand inside in, and put Lerner on the run going away to the deuce side, as opposed to
Right.
you hit that backhand down the line that kind of wants to tail towards the middle if you miss it a little bit,
Yep.
and now
Yep.
you're in a bad spot.
Right.
But I saw it. It looks like, judged by your notes, you saw the same thing. Like
Yep.
Alex is showing the willingness to hit that inside in forehand. I think he's gonna have to do it in spades against
Yep.
Lerner.
And Alvin, and come to the net. He's never come to net this much. I looked at one of the stats against Swindle, 20 of 23 net points. there were
Yeah,
tournaments
that'll do it.
he didn't get to the net 23 times, let alone matches. So I feel like he's hitting the forehand bigger. One of the things I noticed was I haven't seen him serve as big or look for his biggest forehand since the Dominic Thiem match in that U.S. Open final from some years ago, and I haven't seen it since. And that's been one of my issues with Sasha is I haven't seen it, and it looked like he was finally breaking out of his conservative. Let me just make backhands and let you lose of type of style. So I was very happy to see that. I was very happy to see him. I was disappointed, to be honest with you. I made the comments as such that and there was no change. So therefore, I was disappointed that he wasn't continuing to get better when the best in the game were getting better. I feel like he heard me, Alvin. I feel like he understood. Maybe he tuned into the pod, and said, you know what, these guys are right. I got him beforehand. So bottom line, great to see because he is one of the few players that has the ability within his profile to match up to some of the top guns because of all his weapons and his size and his serve. He just wasn't using them as often and as copiously as he should have. So this will be a good match. I feel like if it goes to if everything plays out like it should, this should be a good way for him to fireproof his weapons with Lerner and then have an opportunity to see what he can do against Carlos.
Yeah, and that's interesting because like he and Carlos like sneaky. It's 6-6. Like of all the players like that have been able to push the top guys. There aren't many, but Zverev he's beaten Carlos in Grand Slams. Like he beat him in the Australian Open a couple of years ago. He's beat him at World Tour Finals a few times. Like he every once in a while gets a wild hair and has a match like he did against Cerundolo where he's committed to coming forward, serving
Right.
big, coming forward, and
Right.
he has managed to do that against Carlos a few times and has come up roses. And when he's more himself, which is a little more of a passive player, that's when he gets himself in trouble. But I think that's why everyone gets so frustrated with Alex de Minaur because it's there. It's
Yeah.
there. It's just not there by default.
Right.
There being the
It's
willingness
not his
to step
go-to.
up and be
Right.
imposing.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Not to. I'm not even that convinced that this match is that straightforward for him. I think Lerner's gonna, if he's gonna beat Lerner, Lerner's gonna make him earn it. That's
Yep.
for sure.
Yep. Oh, for sure.
But it would be a very interesting matchup if both players were to move forward. Moving forward, though,
Yeah.
speaking of people who might be listening to this podcast, we're going to talk about Sinner versus Shelton. One of our listeners alerted me earlier this week. Ben Shelton has this docu-series out right now, and they just released the second episode, talking about his off-season, getting ready for Australia. And one of our listeners alerted us that our voices were in the YouTube episode. Looks like a couple of audio clips from our podcast was used in the opening minute of that YouTube episode. I'll link it down below. Pretty awesome, I think. Good for us. I think that's great. And it just kind of goes to show, like, if you keep doing what you're doing and you do it with conviction and you do it right, people are listening, people are paying attention. So
Sure.
I'm just gonna assume that was Ben and Brian, sitting around the dinner table listening to our podcast, and
Absolutely.
we'll just pretend that that's the case.
Maybe, maybe,
But
maybe killing time in the layover, but maybe not at the dinner table. But I hear you.
maybe so. Maybe so. But in this, moving forward, though, he does have his hands full
Yeah.
with one Yannick Sinner. Let's talk about Ben first,
Yep.
and
Yep.
then we'll go over to the center of things. Man, does he show up in Grand Slams?
Yeah.
Like, just he has built himself into a player that is built for the moments, big
Yep.
moments, built for the demands of 3 out of 5 set tennis.
Yep.
And also kind of built his game to be, it's not very porous at all. Like all of the holes that we've talked about over the last 12, 15, 18 months, one by one, he's shoring them up. I remember 2 years ago, I think it was in Miami, I was watching him play and I'm like, God, that backhand, I would just love to see that thing get a little more solid. Like a check. Backhand is damn near bulletproof at this point. He can hit it for pace. He can hit it for defense. Like he's taking it down. He's taking it line now.
Yeah.
Backhand looks solid. Okay. You've mentioned not just being a big server, but being a spot server. He
Yep.
came up this morning against Ruud. He came up with aces on lines, 2 spots when he needed it in big moments.
Yep.
Not just slices out wide, but pingers down the tee as well on the outside. Okay, check. His returns were a point of emphasis, I would say, coming out of last year. My man's returning fantastic so far that we've seen in this tournament. So with all that being said, and kind of routinely beating high level players, showing that he is just a level above them, is now the time that we get a chance to turn the tide against Mr. Sinner.
It will be an interesting match. First and foremost, both things can be the same at the same time, which is
Absolutely.
Ben improving massively and Sinner still being better. So this, I don't want to confuse those two. Number two, the one thing I think you left out or let me take was don't forget about his transition game, Alvin. He is returning. He's getting to the net way more than he ever used to. He's no longer just a serve bot. He's coming forward. He's finishing things off. He's serving smarter, not just serving better. He's coming I think there's a Ford commercial that said, whoever said work harder and not work smarter they didn't know you could do both at the same time. You know what I mean? He's serving better, harder, and he's serving smarter. He's throwing in some kicks. He's getting to the net. He's seeing the guys that are blocking his big cannon back, and he's getting to the net. I think he got to the net, Alvin. I want to say, got to go back and look at the stats. He got the net at least 15 times off his serve alone, right? And it was great to see. So that's the first part. I want to kind of piggyback on what you said earlier about all of his improvements, and he will only continue to do so. Do I think that he is at a point where he will beat Sinner? That is 100% on Sinner's side of things. If this match is played outdoors, I say 100% he's got a chance. I think we realized the other day, we realized last year against Holger Rune, the other day against Zviri, if it's outdoors, Jannik Sinner's vulnerable. If it is indoors, climate controlled and everything controlled, there may not be a better player with pace off returns and off the ground than Jannik Sinner. And it's really a tale of two Yannicks. If Jannik is outside, heat, elements, I think they said it's going to get 44 degrees Celsius. I think that's like got to be close to the mid to high 120s. That's heat out of it. And that's not even including heat index or what the court temp is. But that said, there is a huge chance. I think he has just as good a chance as Pizzeri did because of what he brings to the table, let alone he has a bigger serve. If it goes indoors or if it starts indoors, to me, it's a lot of pressure on Ben because Jannik just doesn't miss returns. And all things being equal, it looked like Jannik stepped out of a hyperbaric chamber. I mean, I swear to God, he looked like whoever that was a few days ago. Yeah, we took him in. We went to the lab and we flushed every toxin out and we replaced it with better nanites. You know what I mean? And he looked like he was on fire, much like he did a little bit last year after he had that scare with Holger Rune and came out in the next two matches and won the tournament. You know, so he has this level where he tends to pick it up a little bit in midstream, right when you think he's the most vulnerable. He did it at Wimbledon when he almost lost to Dimitrov, and then came out and probably played his best match in the final, routined Carlos, you know, in that match there. So, you know, bottom line, to me, it's going to depend on the inside or outside / you know, time controlled or in the heat. I think one of the announcers said it was a difference of 15 to 20 degrees difference when they closed the roof there. And you're talking about 95 and rising with on-court temps of probably 110, 115 to 75 to 80 degrees. Buddy, Sinner got through that, obviously, when his body temp cooled down. Look at how he did the other day when it was normal. So to me, if they close that roof, that's going to be the difference maker, is that right there.
Yep.
Not Ben.
Yep, I'm with you. That's That'll be a tricky, not tricky. That'll be an interesting. It'll be interesting to see how the organizers handle the
Right.
Tuesday schedule or whatever 2 days is from now, because
Right.
you've also got Novak versus Musetti. So one of them is going to be the night match on Rod Laver.
Right.
The other one will be the day match on Laver.
Right.
I'm guessing that's tough. You got your back. You got your two-time defending champion versus your
Yeah.
10-time champion. Who's getting the
Right.
the upper hand in that one?
Right.
I'm gonna guess it's Novak is gonna be playing the night match. That's my guess. And if it's hot enough, they will start with the roof closed
Right.
in the daytime. So yeah, we'll see.
Heat
That's
rule. Heat
not
rule will come into factor on
nothing.
that. Right.
Absolutely. It's absolutely. All right, let's speaking of Mr. Novak, let's
Yeah.
swing into that matchup, Novak versus Musetti. Um Jesus. Talk about near misses, literally. So Novak goes from almost impaling a ball kid and being kicked out of Australia again, the tournament
Right.
this time, not the country. I mean, we're talking inches away, right?
So,
From ending his own tournament to being given the gift of all gifts by getting a walkover with Jakub Mensik pulling out. So
yeah.
you go back to Novak, his biggest issue of the last year is getting to the latter ends of these tournaments and not having enough in the tank to
Right.
to battle both Sinner and Alcaraz back to back, or either or. His body not being there. Okay, so
Yeah.
now we go from almost being out of the tournament to being 72 hours of rest before
Right.
taking on Lorenzo Musetti in the with hopefully 3 matches to play for him. So
Yep.
a fortunate turn of events, but here we are. Here
Yep.
we are. So that obviously helps Novak. I think this is probably a good chance to talk about what we've seen from your favorite player and mine, Lorenzo Musetti, over the last 3
That's right.
days.
Lorenzo played
He's
a
he's
great played
Yeah,
a
no,
great match
it's
against
he
Taylor.
played a great match. He played a great match against Taylor. Yeah, fantastic match against Taylor. And I think one of the most exciting men's matches of the tournament so far was against Mahach.
Yeah.
Both guys really let it out. Honestly, opened the tank for 4.5 sets, and then
Yeah.
Lorenzo just showed he had a little more experience in the back end of
Yep.
closing tough matches than Tomas did, and that was just enough to get him through. But
Yep.
and then going into the match against Taylor, I think you watched it pretty intently.
Yep.
What did you see? Obviously, Taylor was a little bit hampered, but then outside of
Yep.
that, what else did you see from Lorenzo that makes you hopeful for his chances against Novak?
He is a smart player. He sliced more. He drop shot it early. I don't even think he was so much thinking that he was hampered because it wasn't really clear until about early in the second that he was getting some treatment on the side. Could be an ab pull, could be something, but clearly uh, he was going to make this be an athletic contest, knowing that Taylor's speed isn't his weapon, right? Uh, there were some points, much like the Matty Keys match with JPEG, when Taylor got the forehand that he wanted and got the serve out wide, it was curtains. I mean, it's still it's one of the biggest forehands on the tour, period, and he can slap that forehand with the best of them. It was a great thing to see Lorenzo not let him get many of them. I mean, there were so many floating deep balls. Unfortunately for Taylor, he wasn't coming in. I mean, I felt like Lorenzo just played a smarter match, knowing the matchup, especially coming off the Mahach match where he was okay going with pace. Like, I don't mind it. But he was like, no, with you though, you got a little bit bigger pace than me on certain sides. I'm gonna see if you can. You're not gonna come forward. You don't come forward that often. So I know you're gonna stay back. So let's
Oh,
just see. Let's just see how long we can go. And the longer the point goes, it's actually better for me. I'm in a little better shape than you are. And I think the commentators even made the comment about when they closed the roof on him the other day. He actually wanted to stay in the sun. He felt it was a better matchup for him to be in the elements. So you don't do that in 110, 120-degree heat unless you really feel good about your conditioning. You know what I mean? When you're negotiating to keep the roof open, right? So, and that's where I felt like in this match here, he knew the longer it went, it was going to be a death of 1,000 cuts for Taylor, and it was going to be better for him. So the longer the points went, the better for him. And unfortunately, Taylor was dinged up, and so we won't know the true situation. It really wasn't as an upset today, obviously because of Taylor's health. But I look forward to seeing that match on a day when Taylor's 100%. And obviously Taylor holds the edge slightly on the grass court with most everybody except for the top two. And it was good to see Lorenzo start to make hard court be as solid as he did, and the way he did it showed it was on purpose. It was very intentional what he was trying to do in his tactics. So I like seeing that. Alvin, Lorenzo Musetti is quietly just earning a place in my head and my heart. I've watched a few of his interviews. I've seen him comment on being a young father, and he's got two little boys now. Could not be more impressed with the type of person. I'm not going to go full on. Some of the commentators will talk about how graceful and smooth. I think the best one-hander is retiring this year, and his name is one Stanislav Wawrinka. And I think his one-hander was just one of the most you could put his backhand in marble, and it'll be up there with all the best from Da Vinci and to Michelangelo's. It's not his backhand or smoothness. It's the person. It's the confidence. You know what I like about Musetti? I like how he's in a moment. He does this little thing where he kind of nods right before point, whether he's doing it to his box or to himself. Like, he has so much composure that he realizes that, okay, I am going to do everything I can to win this point. And I'm myself in the mindset, and I'm gonna be calm about it. I feel like a couple years ago, he was a little irrational, a little erratic. He is as mature of a 23-year-old as I've seen. And Alvin, I didn't realize he was that young. He's still a young guy. I thought he was 27, 28. He is 23. So I say that to say, Alvin, I take everything I've said about Lorenzo back. I still stand by my comment that a 4 or 5 in the world should look a certain way, should be a certain level of player. It's not his fault that he was 4 or 5 in the world. I give him that. Also didn't realize how young he was and how much more he could still improve. So I want to make sure I go on wax and say, Lorenzo Musetti, you the man.
No notes. That's a 3. We're out.